Because the reality really is, it was never that you was trying to be fast. Like your coochie began throbbing for the first time, and you ain't knew what to do with it. You ain't knew, so it was like, oh my gosh, right? It was a lot of hormonal changes, and ain't nobody really told you about it. And so you were just kind of like, what's happening down south? What's going on? Yeah, now. Hello, welcome back to Bennystake. I'm your girl Benny, and listen, we're back on the couch. We're trying to do the things. We're trying to record the videos. If you haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so that you always want to upload. Today, I'm glowing. You know what I'm saying? Like the Son of God done shine on me, shine bright on me, and I'm glowing. I love my makeup. I love the way it came out. You ever just do like your makeup and you're just kind of like, ugh, it's not giving. And then you spend like 30 minutes in the mirror and you're like, you know what? It actually did a little 1, 2, 1, 3. That's how I'm feeling today. And I'm like, God is good. You know what I'm saying? Like all the time, God is good. The face is looking good. I feel, I feel pretty. I feel so pretty today. It's giving what it was supposed to have given. I'm looking at myself in my monitor because it's like, baby, very easy to behold. Yeah, now because it's like a lot of people's beauty, you kind of have to calculate some things, carry the three, put in their personality, their characters before you could find the beauty. Not me. Like for me, it's just like I'm very easy to behold, right? Like you look at me, you see beauty. Like you just like blink, you see the beauty. You know what I'm saying? Like you move this way, you see the beauty. This side, beauty. This side, beauty. Top, beauty. On the side, beauty. Beauty everywhere. It's just kind of like I love that for me. I really love that for me, and I want more people to experience this. And if I'm being honest, me sitting right here before you, it's been inspired by how good I think I look today. You know what I'm saying? Like I look good all the time. God is good all the time. I'm beautiful all the time. Like let's get that together. But I looked at myself, I was like, dang, like the world deserves to see this. Because it's like, why would you hide a gift that God has given you from the people of God? So I was like, let me just get on here because the people of God got to see how I look. So now we're here. So take it all in. You don't have to be afraid. Take it all in. I'm going to move this out of the way. Like you see what it's doing? Ow. Don't ruin my flow. You know what I'm saying? Like you see what it's doing? It's just like giving. We thank God. We thank God for beauty. And today we're going to be talking about girlhood. We're going to be talking about, just like our bodies, especially as young Black girls. Okay, all over the diaspora, all over, we're talking about African countries. We're talking about in the Caribbean. Because apparently, I don't know where they had the meeting, but all our parents the same. Okay? Your mom Yvette, my mom Yvonne, like all them the same. All them the same. Black parents the same. Evidently, like I made this video, which we're gonna get into, but the commentary around it was like Caribbean parents are the same. Moms from Trinidad, like, just families all over the world. It seems like we all just grew up experimenting the same thing, like experiencing the same thing, especially when you add the dynamic of like the church and everything in between. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about like, the initial video that I saw, how I reacted to this, and some of the commentary that now led to this video, right? But before we do it, go ahead and subscribe. Like, like at this point, like I feel like, like we just have to have mutual respect. You know what I'm saying? Like at this point, like, like you've been coming back. You've been coming back to watch. Like make it official. Like I'm not your side piece. Okay, I'm the main. I'm the main character. Go ahead and subscribe. Make it official. Do the things. And let's get into it. So I came across this video. Augustus, I believe her handle is called Nima. We just gonna play the video. And she was talking about just girlhood, right? Like not demonizing her child for wanting to explore her girlhood, right? Like her daughter wanting to explore her girlhood. and not feeling like she has to shame her or even allow anybody to shame her. Because we're going to talk about it, because sometimes the shaming came from inside the house, but sometimes some of our parents could not locate their spine to shut down the shaming that came from outside. Let's keep it a buck. If you grew up in a, I'm just gonna say black as a collective, right? Like black American household, Caribbean household, Afro Latina household, African household. Like as a collective, a lot of us have dealt with this, which I'm gonna pull some of like, the comments that I saw off of the video that I made. But sometimes the spine was crooked, right? Like we love our parents. I know a lot of them did their best, but sometimes the spine was not aligned. Like I'm talking about the spines was crooked, so much so that even if they had certain beliefs or certain things that they wanted to do differently, because of fear of what like other people were gonna do or what other people were gonna say about them, as far as like their parenting, so many parents I feel like just allow so many things to just like go unchecked, right? With family members, sometimes with teachers, with people within the church, right? It's like sometimes the spine was loose, okay? Loose. I know y'all know what I'm talking about. Sometimes the spine was loose, so much so that you had parents who allowed people to shame their daughters and shame their families, and they never stood up out of fear of maybe being perceived as like a weak parent, and like, as maybe a parent that's like too, too accommodating or whatever the case is. And so we had our good sis Nima talking about like, not only will she not shame her daughter, but she won't allow anybody else to shame her daughter.
And one thing about it, my daughter will be able to explore her girlhood without being labeled fast. How loosely we grew up with the word fast being thrown around should be studied. My daughter is not fast because at some point she's going to want to try nail polish. And then at some point she may want to try shellac or gel. And then at some point she going to want to try acrylic. You feel me? That does not make her fast because she's seeing things and she wants to try them out because she's developing. And I'm telling you, I'll slap fire from you before you come around and kill the spirit of curiosity in her before she's given the chance to explore her girlhood. But you will not call her fast because she's curious in the new trends, because she one day might want her lashes done, because one day she might want to try a new hairstyle, because one day I might let her get a second hole in her ear, because one day she's going to want a little length on them nails. You feel me? But with the appropriate limitations, she will be able to try them out. And because you're lame and possibly insecure or whatever is wrong with you, the reason why you would project those things onto a child and allow her not to walk in being herself, which may be girly, it will not be tolerated. It will not be allowed. Don't get me started on older women being your biggest haters, because that's honestly another video for another day. But children should be able to become what we pour into them. We should be speaking such good things into them that that's what they become. So you're not going to label her fast. And there are so many of us in our 20s and in our 30s who have really lost the art of growing and expanding in our girlhood, creative wise, experimenting, all types of stuff, because somebody somewhere, some older, bitter, lame, was labeling you fast when that wasn't even the case. Those weren't your intentions. You were just interested in girlhood. You were just interested in the ways that it could look. You were just interested in some of the things you were seeing. And that's not to say that there's no such thing as fast, but before labeling and judging, provide some guidance, because it's inevitable that I'm gonna grow and I'm gonna want to try different things because I'm a developing girl. But when you kill the spirit of curiosity, like I said, because you're lame, and maybe because it's something new, or maybe even it's something you don't do. You don't get your nails done, so you don't get the big deal. But one thing about it, if you ever feel like it's detrimental to her development and well-being, come see me. And if you can't come run it by me, you don't want to say it. I promise. You will never kill the spirit in her. Creative wise, exploring, growing, developing, like, you will never take my daughter's pink away. I pray she never has to get her pink back. Under my roof, under my supervision, no, ma'am.
Like snaps all across the board. Snaps all across the screen. Everything she said. Not you trying to like, this me trying to explore my girlhood and my ring not even gonna let me. My ring not even trying to let me explore my girlhood. Like, how you gonna be a hater? Right? But tens across the board. Everything she said. Literally. And before somebody that lacks, the ability to infer, because people are not inferring these days. People are not filling in the blanks. Like comprehension skills in Yemen. Even Dora's map cannot help us find some of y'all's comprehension skills. Nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen. Literally. But before somebody comes like, well, but Benny, she literally said, with proper guidance and proper boundaries. Everything within boundaries. Because to me, it always never made sense, right? Because if you see your mom who has like maybe nails, you see your mom do her makeup, you see your mom do her hair, you see your mom maybe try like a different color. Children are human beings who literally they are exposed to the things that they see, and that ends up influencing their curiosity and what they might want to try. So if I see my mom being the kind of girl that's like, always playing in jewelry, her nails are always done, guess what? Sooner rather than later, I'm going to be like, oh, I want to try that. Does that make your child fast? Does that make your daughter fast? No. Your daughter has maybe seen what you're doing and they're curious. They're curious wanting to try certain things. Now, as a parent, you may have certain boundaries. You may have certain like things that you want to adhere to. You may have certain things that you want to be mindful for, as to not expose your daughter to too much too soon or too early. But to be surprised that your child might be interested in the very same things that they're seeing you do is actually literally one of the most confusing things that I've ever seen people do. Like if I see you with long nails, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to want to try that. If I see you with makeup, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to want to try that. If I see you do like different color to your hair, I'm going to want to try that. Because I'm watching you. I'm learning from you. And you have, other families where sometimes maybe the mom is just like very simple. She does a little 1, 2, 1, 3, not too much. But then you have their daughters, because again, your child is a human being who starts off as a little kid, but eventually they grow up to be their own person with their own autonomy. Children have autonomy over themselves, right? Which is a conversation for another day. But sometimes you have a mom who's maybe not into so much, and then they have a daughter who's just curious. Maybe that's a trait that comes from the father. They're interested in color. They're interested in like different, artistic expressions. Right? And that in and of itself does not make the child fast. And I love how she said, she gonna like, I will beat the boogers out of anybody's face. Okay? I will beat the boogers out of anybody's nose before you will come and label my child whatever she's not. If you worry, talk to me. I'm the parent. Yes. Yes. Because like how many of y'all grew up in an environment where like your parents were maybe a little bit more permissive when you guys were at home, but as soon as you get around certain people, it's like a switcheroo. It's like a whole nother gymnastics. You feel like you're being bamboozled because it's like, dang, like that really ain't the energy you had. Like how many of y'all have had, aunties negatively influence the way your parents talked and treated y'all? How many of y'all have had the church mothers, which I grew up in the church for as long as I can remember, but like church mothers are literally some of the meanest people ever. Like the love of God be everywhere except with church mothers. Literally some of the most condescending, mean-spirited people ever. A church, Mother Jean. Okay, Mother Jean, Mother Ann and them. Oh my gosh. So mean. The way I grew Mama Brigitte, like Mama Marie, like, oh my God. Will always check you in the way to make you feel as if like you are literally the representation of like demonic activities. From the way you dress, the way you talk. Just like overly, protective of like the men of God, and thinking like, all these young girls who are coming up in age are there to like, distract the men of God. They're there to like do the things to the men of God. And it just felt like a lie. And how many of y'all have been in situations, and how many of us have been in situations where you were dealing with somebody like that in the church, and your mom did nothing, and your dad did nothing? Why? Because they didn't want to come across as it's like, they're way too permissive and they're way too like whatever the case is. No, a lot of us just have trauma alone from the simple fact that sometimes some of our parents did not have the balls and the spine alignment to stand up for us when it came to the way people spoke about us, the way people, treated us, the things that people labeled on top of us. If anything, they helped enforce it so that they don't look bad, so that they don't look shunned in society for being like, a bad parent. I grew up, everybody could whoop me. Like, the teacher could whoop me, the pastors could whoop me, the church mothers could whoop me, the neighbor could whoop me. Anybody could whoop me. And I'm just like, why? Why? It takes a village to keep an eye on a child, but it shouldn't take a village Molly whooping me from Monday to Sunday. Everybody could whoop me. Why? Why? I grew up in an environment where I wasn't allowed to wear pants. Not necessarily because those were the thoughts of my parents, at least my mother, those were not her thoughts. She didn't care. Pants really didn't affect me, it didn't do me no never mind. But the folks in church were like, oh, if your daughter wearing pants, that's like, they're like, prostitutes, like they're like bandumba or whatever the case is. And off of that alone, I remember at a point I wasn't wearing pants. Mind you, there are literal pictures of me when I was much younger in a much different, environment in pants. So I know my mom ain't had no problem with pants. But later on, we found ourselves in a space where like, the pants was a problem. And so I wasn't allowed to wear pants. I just remember not wearing pants because of the judgment of the people from the church. And at no point did anybody around me feel the need to be like, actually, no. Ain't nothing wrong with my child wearing no pants. It ain't doing nobody no never mind. My child can wear a pants if they want to. Because imagine what that would have done to me if I just had that support. Other things I wasn't allowed to wear, doni. I don't know if you guys know doni, but it's like, how you have those like some little spaghetti straps? It's just like a little tanky top with the little stripe over here to tie at the back. Doni, in French, it literally translates to like, naked back or whatever the case is. But it didn't necessarily mean I was just having like a little, little scarf over here. It don't literally was like, it's just a full-on spaghetti. But instead of it having one stripe here, one stripe over there, it had one. It had one here that you tied on your neck. And so like your back would be empty. I was not allowed to wear that. Because that was sinful. Like, as I just want y'all to think about that. I'm 12, I'm 13, I'm whatever the case is, and not allowed to wear like a simple tank top because that is sinful. How? How? Nobody ever had an answer. The parents not saying nothing. Nobody really not saying nothing, but you wasn't allowed to wear that because that is sinful. That is tempting to people. That is tempting to men. The protection of men, the protection of men's comfort and, the men's gaze. It's just like it was always a thing that went back to the men and what the men could see and how that would affect them. Mind you, your child is 11 and a half. I was not allowed to wear shorts because my thigh too tempting. Mini skirts, like the little to my skirts, not allowed to wear. Very tempting. Do you know how damaging? Like, I want us to really think about some of the things that we are able to say to kids, because kids are sponges. Everything you say and do to them, they absorb, and that ends up shaping their identity. And don't get me started on just having a curvier body, right? Because I have a curvier body, I remember it wasn't until maybe like a couple years ago that I actually embraced having a big booty, that I actually fell in love with having a big booty. Because the ways in which I was sexualized for having a big booty at such a young age, it just was so annoying. We could wear the same thing, the same long skirt, but because it will hug me a little bit more, I was a problem, not the people who were looking at me lustfully, who were looking at a child lustfully. I was a problem, particularly within the church. Like the person, the child will be the problem. Like, what? And all this time, it just was a thing. Like, I love the way she put it. That was just an expression of girlhood. That's literally all it was. Oh, maybe I want to try this. Maybe I want to wear this. I want to maybe do this. Just an expression of girlhood. That's all it was. And so, parents, like, let's be careful. I'm not a parent yet. Someday I will be. And for the love of God, I want to do things differently. Not that everything is going to be permissive. There are boundaries that I have for myself. There are boundaries that I had even for like my two younger sisters. Like certain things like, that's just too much. Take your time. Eventually you work your way towards that. Like, I know my youngest said they want to like pierce, their nose and pierce the things. I'm like, that's fine. I'm not against it. Just wait a little bit. Wait a little bit. You could pierce it in a little while or whatever the case is. Right? There are boundaries. There are boundaries you can establish. But even within that, never in shame. Just in like, be mindful, right? Be mindful with how you show up in the world and explaining to them like this could be this could be that, this could be this, right? How you perceive could be one way or the other. It's not your fault that people can have, predatorial mindsets, right? But you should be aware of those things. Those are honest conversations rather than just shaming. Like you are the problem, you are the cause. You are the cause of these people looking at you sideways, even though you are a child, they are an adult. Like they don't have to work on their self-discipline. They don't have to work on their lustful eye. They don't have to work on their predatorial nature. It's you that's the problem. It's your don't need that's the problem. It's your pants that's the problem. It's your body type that's the problem. No, those are not conversations that I ever want to put my child through. Boundaries, yes. But the ways in which we talk to children, I used to hate my butt. Like I would wear sometimes, I find myself wearing things that are larger just to help conceal the body that I have. Everything our good sis said, and I'm going to add this. Her liking boys at whatever age that is does not make her fast either. Because many of us do not know how to date. Many of us do not know how to have a conversation with a man and just explore the dating space because we were ashamed for literally just having crushes. And a lot of us got played in adulthood because we were not prepared for the dating scene. Even the mere fact of having a crush on a boy and navigating those butterfly feelings, and when a boy is trying to tell you certain things, navigating those, we were demonized. We were beat down for it, especially if you grew up in an African household. So much so that you got a lot of girls out here in their adulthood, and Tyrone texting you what you're doing late in the midnight hour, and you think he like you. Girl, he don't, but you ain't know that though. This wasn't even a video that I thought was gonna do as well as it did. On all the platforms, the stories that came about, I'm gonna leave some of the common responses that I got. Those were like in groups. Like, you had one that talked about the faith component of it, right? Like, if you grew up in the church, so many comments around that. I screenshotted some of them, right? Go on that post and read through it. So many stories of people because of the church, because of the church's influence. So many people because of society, growing up in a Caribbean household, in an African household, an Afro-Latina household, in an Black American household, like just like our cultures, like around talking about, young girls and their dating space. A lot of us have trauma around that. The biggest one for me was the church. The biggest was the church. The concept of purity. This literally has to be one of the most annoying outfits to wear ever. The only thing more annoying than this is a romper. Right? You know how you had to put it on the whole time, and then when you gotta go to the bathroom, especially if it ain't got a zipper at the bottom, and then you got to go ahead and undress yourself, sit butt ass naked on the toilet if it's like at the one at your house. In public, go ahead and squat. You know what I'm saying? Do a little sumo squat and squat. But then you sitting there butt naked. Okay? Only thing annoying than that is this right here. Because this is a whole different outfit than this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this has vibes. This is like, it's giving feminine. She has shoulders. Oh my God, she has shoulders. We love this. And if you're noticing a little, continuity issue, I had to step out really quickly. So I had to come back and, get back to what we're talking about. But like I was saying, like, the concept of purity has done a little bit more harm than it has done good, right? If you grew up in the church, you may disagree with this take. And if you do disagree, comment down below and let me know. But I don't personally believe that my value, my worth is, as a young woman, I don't believe my value and my worth is tied to my virginity. That's not the messaging you get at church. The messaging you get at church is that, virginity is cool. Now, is virginity cool? For sure. We should always encourage, our young people to take their time, because whenever you open those doors, like sexually, whenever you open those doors, it can get really murky if you don't know what's happening, if nobody really spoke to you about some of the things that you may experience mentally, emotionally, like your spirit, like some of the things that you can experience. Like, the conversations never existed. It just was this umbrella of like, virginity is cool. And so if you lost this virginity and you lost this purity, that somehow you were less than. You were less than in the eyes of God. You were less than in the eyes of your church. You were less than. You had less value. I do not believe that's biblical. But those are the messaging that you receive in church. Those are the messaging that a lot of young girls receive in church. Like, you're fast. Look at how you walk in your fast. You're trying to tempt the men of God. You're trying to tempt. Mind you, these are kids. A child should not be tempting you as an adult. If you're feeling tempted by a 15-year-old, something has gone terribly wrong, and we need to go ahead and lay hands on you. Okay? In prayer, supplication, And if it gets out of pocket, we need to actually lay hands on you, like physically lay hands on you. But that's not the conversation we have. We have the conversation around blaming children for just like their development, like having a little bit of, your breast coming out. I know for me was my booty, but a lot of my friends, like you saw the volume, like come about. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, I got a little titty, like I got a little titty. It's a little suckable, it's a little lickable right now. But when I was younger, it wasn't much to work with. It was giving dumplings. Okay, itty bitty committee. Very much tiny, invisible. Like you needed faith to see my titties. Okay? You needed faith to see what I was working with. It was not fruitful at all. It never gave fruitful. But that was not the experience of some of my girlfriends. Like it was giving, watermelon. They developed in that way. And so you will see how even them, they will be demonized for their development. Like all of a sudden, Shelly has to come out here in a muumuu to conceal what is actually just happening developmentally. A lot of shame within the church. A lot of shame within the church. The sexualizing of young girls' bodies within the church. Oh my gosh. And then you add the component of actually dating. The conversation was never, how do you date as a young person? Right? Because the reality is, the curiosity of like relationship, having a crush on a boy, having a crush on like, Tyrone down there at the church, brother Samuel. By the way, somebody in your church named Samuel and you have a crush on them, I'm here to tell you he ain't the one. I know brother Sam gonna find him somebody, but the journey for brother Sam finding somebody gonna be a little murky, and along the way, do not be casualty. Okay? The Samuels of the churches, the Emmanuels of the churches, God don't ever be with the Emmanuels of the church. Emmanuel, God with us. If there's brother Emmanuel in your church, God is not with them. I promise you right now. God is not with brother Emmanuel in your church. So if you find yourself right now crushing on brother Emmanuel, you down there at the prayer, you trying to hold hands with brother Emmanuel, and he trying to rub on your hands. You're like, oh my gosh, that's my Boaz. You know what I'm saying? When I was doing the prayer, it was out here like, touching my hand a little extra hard. When he was giving me the hug, he ain't give it too churchy. Like he was a little, little side and a little lean with it. If you're thinking that, I'm here to let you know that brother Emmanuel is not the one for you. Okay? Emmanuel's and Samuel's of the church don't be the man for the women of God in the church. The Lord now with brother Emmanuel down there at your church. So I'm here to let you know, if you are crushing on brother Emmanuel right now, that ain't your Boaz. Carry on. Carry on, carry on. Right? But when we was younger, the drummer was cute. You know what I'm saying? Like the pianist was cute. The guitar boy, he had a little swag to him. My eyes was open. I was like, dang, like you look cute different in the way that other people not cute. You know what I'm saying? Like your image is real easy for me to behold. Like I'm looking at you, I'm like, dang, like God is good all the time. But specifically, when the drama is around, God is extra good. You know what I'm saying? Those are natural feelings for young girls and young boys to have. It does not make them fast. Right? And I know for me personally, and according to the comments, many of y'all, all y'all needed was a little guidance. Because typically around that time was when you started even developing, like, say your periods. Like I got my period when I was like, 11, right? When you have your period, a lot of things come with having your period. Like you have the 4 stages of your cycle, ovulation being one of them. Think about it as an adult. As an adult right now, it be sometimes where like, you firm in the Lord, you know what I'm saying? Like you leaning not on your own understanding, you trusting the Lord, you got your boundaries and your boundaries are there. Like the walls of Jericho, the boundaries are up, you're upholding and you're maintaining the boundaries. You got a system for your boundaries that are the boundaries for the women of God. Cool. But let that ovulation hit you. Okay? Let that ovulation hit you. Now, all of a sudden, we cannot locate the boundary. You don't know where Dora's map is at. You don't know where your boundaries is at. You know nothing because why? Biologically, when you're ovulating, everything is up for grabs. You want to be touched and you want to agree. This is happening as an adult. When you were younger, that was also happening. You got your 4 cycles, like your menstrual time. Like that's when you're not saying like you bleeding. Jesus bled, you bleeding. Like you letting it out. You're not saying like your body is, releasing whatever. Right? Then you have your ovulation phase. The body is preparing an egg. Literally, the body is preparing an egg. And as women, we already know this. If you don't, women are born with all the eggs they'll ever have, right? And every month, they're preparing that star egg. I'm going to leave an episode that I did over here with, Dr. Maureen on fertility. But as soon as you started having your period, that has been happening. Young girls are having their period at 11, 12. Some people have even been having their period sooner, before even 10. Which again, those are things that have to be studied. It's beyond, my knowledge, right? Your body is preparing one egg for the purpose of reproduction. How does reproduction happen? Brother Tyrone got to go ahead and meet Sister Cindy. Okay, and they gotta be like, oh dang, like you find a little something, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a little whatever. I'm feeling, all the feels in the feels. And then Brother Tyrone gonna be like, dang, Cindy, like it's giving. I got a little something for you. Let me go ahead and give you my swimmers. And then the swimmers gonna swim and then they're gonna find the star egg. And then they're gonna be like, dang, what's going on? Like we together. We go together real bad. I feel like, like all the other swimmers ain't made it and you made it. And then the swimmer gonna be like, oh dang, like you really the special egg, huh? Of all the eggs, you the one. I'm finna scramble you real bad. And then you're gonna be scrambled and then together y'all gonna have baby. That is happening during your please, I encourage you to go ahead and find an actual, like a more serious representation and a more serious explanation of how, reproduction does happen. But in a nutshell, you have the best swimmer trying to find, the chosen egg of the month. You have your menstrual phase, then you have like, your follicular phase or something like that. Your body's preparing the egg. And when you're ovulating, the egg is like, dang, I'm ready. Like I'm ready. Then you have your luteal phase. And during all these phases, like your mood is every which way. Like your mood is like, there's so much that your body as a young woman is doing. Your emotions are all over the place. Sometimes you're happy. In certain, phases, you're happier. Right? In your in your ovulation period, like you want to touch and agree. You want to touch something. You want to hunch. We know this as an adult. And if we even struggle as adults, how dare we look at young girls, not give them any guidance whatsoever, and then shame them for experiencing this, weird. It's not a weird feeling, but for the first time when you experience it, you're just kind of like, dang, like I'm just feeling like I'm all over the place. Like during that puberty, like you're going through a lot of changes. How dare we look at young girls as they're going through those phases, as they're going through those moments, judge them, shame them, and call them fast for literally something that we could just explain to them. This is what's happening. The feelings that you're feeling, it's gonna pass. You are just ovulating, so you wanna You want to feel the touch, you want to feel the warmth, you want to feel all those things. But be careful, right? Be careful, because you may never know. You may never know who's around. You may never know. And young boys, they're going through their own changes in their bodies as well. They're going through their own changes as well, right? I'm not a man, so I'm not going to speak to that experience. But young boys, they're also going through their changes. So without guidance, we just leave them out in the world. We shame them and we leave them to figure things out by themselves. No wonder we have so many baby showers and very little unions. People are walking around in situations unprepared. And why are we unprepared? Because we use shame instead of education. We shame young girls instead of educating them on their bodies. You're not fast. Your coochie was just throbbing because you was in your ovulation period. You're not fast. Your body was just preparing an egg, and the egg naturally wants to meet with the sperm, and we already know how that works. You're navigating this as soon as you get your period. You're navigating this. And so instead of us to educate with compassion and understanding, we shame. We call girls fast. We call them fast. Whole time, it's just a phase that they have to go through. And half the time, even before you bring in the cycles of a young woman's body, half the time, it's just a crush for the sake of a crush. He cute. Oh, that's my little boyfriend. Does that mean anything? Do kids even understand the concept of a boyfriend? No. Do they even understand the concept of love? Probably not. They're just curious. Again, from maybe what they see. If you live in a household where it's like there's love being shown to you, that was not my household, okay? It's six of us, and I ain't never seen my parents even hold hands. I ain't never seen them even hug, okay? Which is another side effect of demonizing sexual, interactions, of demonizing, right? Like sensuality, of demonizing that. So much so that you have married couples who don't even know how to show themselves affection because, everything, you were raised for everything to be wrong. Everything is a sin. Everything was a sin. Everything made you impure. You're supposed to be a virgin. And then you become an adult when you're supposed to actually be, touching and agreeing. You don't know how to touch. You don't know where they're supposed to touch you so you can agree. And then you have the orgasm gap, which is another conversation for another day. A lot of y'all are just getting touched. Y'all are not even agreeing, which to me is always absurd. Okay? Knock, and the door shall be open unto thee. But if you grew up in a household where affection was normal, if your young daughter sees daddy touching mommy, like a little, cute little kiss right here and there, a little tap on the booty, you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys to give it praise, right? Like a little, praise unto he. Like, you guys to go ahead and do a little tap on the side. So if your daughter is seeing that, right? If that's the dynamic that they're seeing, them wanting that does not make them fast. They're seeing what's happening, and if they find it beautiful, their minds are curious. They want to replicate that. They're curious about, how does this come about? What do? You just talk and educate your child. Everything age appropriate, right? Does that mean you encourage your young daughter to get a boyfriend so that the boyfriend can start, tapping them on the butt cheeks? Like, no. But you talk to them about, mommy and daddy, we love each other. This is how we met. And, sometimes these things happen and whatever. Like, you just talk to them in a way that is age appropriate without shaming. Without shaming. The church has done so much damage in an attempt to keep us pure. They've demonized us and tied our worth. They've tied our worth as young women to virginity. And that ain't Christ-like. If you have a crush on a boy, you are fast. If you're curious of like, the feelings that you're having, like, wanting to have a boyfriend and wanting to just like, experience whatever maybe you've seen, say at your house or even on TV, being curious about that, being curious about how to properly date, how to set boundaries within dating, how to have boundaries within your own body for your own protection and for your own safety. Nobody talks about that. We go straight to shame. We go straight to demonizing. We go straight to the insults. And somehow it hasn't worked. Yet and still we continue the same cycle. Nothing has changed in the churches. I've seen women in ministry be set down for getting pregnant. Mind you, Brother Emmanuel is still on the drums. Who got her pregnant? It ain't the Holy Ghost. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've already told y'all, it's two people that's going to have the Holy Ghost come upon them, Mary and me. Everybody else, they touching and agreeing to get their babies. But one got set down and the other one still drumming. Consistent shame. Consistent shame around relationship, around desiring relationship. Consistent shame. The church makes up majority women, right? That's just the reality. There are more women in churches than there are men. And so you have all these women in churches who are there, they encourage you, serve the Lord, trust in the Lord, lean not on your understanding and the things. But nobody's actually giving you the tools for your life outside of the church walls. That is so unfair. And a lot of us, we've had to heal from a lot of the church hurt, a lot of the church trauma, a lot of the conversations that people had around our bodies, around our desires to even, the desire to even just want a partner. Even as adults, I'm seeing this happen. Well, like you have a woman that's going to talk about how, like, I desire partnership. I desire to have a partner someday, and I want to have kids. I want to do all that stuff. And then people are so quick to rebuttal, talk about how, like, you don't need no man. God is all you need. You got to trust in the Lord. Okay. And Adam had God to himself, and there wasn't even no other humans. Adam had God to himself, and he still needed Eve. But somehow, even as adult women in church, there's a certain level of just kind of like, you're not supposed to want a man, you're not supposed to want a man, you're not supposed to want a man. But I do. We have desires. We desire companionship. We desire to be loved. We desire to be touched. We desire to be cared for and made to be feel beautiful and made to be, just like adored. We desire that. By nature, we desire that. So the shaming starts from, childhood. And even in adulthood, you see it in so many different ways. You're men hungry. Don't be thinking about the man. Don't be thinking about the man. Yes, there's a time and a place, right? You shouldn't idolize marriages. But the desire to be loved is not, it's not wrong. It don't mean you don't like Christ. It don't mean you don't think Christ is enough. Like, it don't mean that. The constant shaming. And the church will swing on either side. You have churches that will shame young women when they're young because it's like, don't look at boys, you're fast, you're tempting the men of God, you're tempting the men of God. As soon as you're like 21, where your husband? These the singles, where your husband, they will pressure you to then find a husband, even though nobody gave you the tools to navigate what it would take to meet somebody, figure out their character, figure out your values, if they align or not, to result in a marriage. You have that on one side. And then you also have on the other side, where it's just kind of like, be at the church, serving ministry, focus in the church. Don't worry about no man. God gonna supply your needs. He gonna do the things. Is he gonna touch me like that? I never hugged the Lord, and I've been in church for a minute. The Lord had never hugged me. You know who did? My husband. Okay? My husband did. It's human beings. that's going to give you the hug. It's human beings that's going to touch you. It's human beings that's going to give you that embrace. The Lord has never hugged me. And he ain't about to hug you. If he is, it's a marine spirit. It's a marine spirit. My sister, please. We just be swinging all the way to the other side. All of it is grounded in shame. They shame you for your curiosity at a young age. They shame you if you do not acquire this man within the bounds that they think is appropriate. They shame you if, time has passed and you're yet to secure you a man. They shame you for wanting a man. All around shame. And it's tiring. It's just shame. And then you have the component of like what we tell boys versus what we tell girls. In churches at least, or even in certain homes, right? There is this thing of like, as a man, the more people you sleep with, the more valuable you are. Like, you're that guy. We overly sexualize our boys. Overly. Like, they're supposed to, want the things, and they're supposed to go ahead and have this many, women and sleep with this many women, because it's like they're the ones that's supposed to be chasing and the things, and then the women are just supposed to be there, never really exploring, never really understanding what they even desire. Harmful both ways. Because that's how you end up with the orgasm gap. You end up with that. You end up with, intimacy being so male-centered. The average woman, you guys to knock. This how I know your mama not raised y'all right, because y'all ain't got no manners. Y'all not trying to knock. You got to knock until she's out there and lets you know, like, yes. 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 Yes, now you can come in. Yeah, I just want to barge in. You want to barge in. Some of y'all can't even overstay your welcome. Some of y'all can't even stay long enough. That's a conversation for another day. But some of y'all don't even know how to overstay when it's appropriate. Okay? I done close my eyes and I blink, we're done. Sir, what that gonna do for me? You went knocked. Okay? You went did nothing before we even arrived to the knocking. You went did that. Okay, the kindness, the gestures, you ain't did that. And then you came here, you ain't really knock. And then the women don't be knowing how to stand up and align their spine. They're going to let you come in without knocking. And then before you could even go ahead and get them the water for them to settle in, they're ready to leave because they're done. You didn't even know how to overstay your welcome. Even when it's allowed, you didn't know how to overstay your welcome. Brother Emmanuel, are you not embarrassed? And many of y'all be walking around not embarrassed because you were taught that it's you. It's you. Pleasure is for you. Not in this household. Okay? Not in my household. Amen. Unless I'm trying to be generous, not in my household. And whenever I've spoken about it online, people be like, Benny, give me your phone. It's like sometimes people feel embarrassed of how I talk about my pleasure. And nobody gonna shame me ever again. I done lived through a lot of shame in my life when it comes to just like the curiosity about around my body, around, pleasure. I've lived around so much shame. And mind you, I'm somebody that waited. Okay? If I'm gonna wait, the wait got to be worthwhile. Because what you're not gonna do is roll and jar it and waste my time. Absolutely not. But different messaging. We tell men one thing, we tell women a whole nother thing. You be pure, you go be nasty. And then somehow y'all come together and you supposed to be nasty. You used to nasty. I don't know who gonna make you nasty because every woman's supposed to be pure, which again, just stupid in and of itself. And so then you have nasty and purity trying to merge. Don't nobody know what's going on. Everybody confused. You mad, I'm mad. Because then it's like, it's a chore. that ain't even lasting that long, and I was supposed to wait, and I was supposed to be pure, and it ain't giving what it was supposed to have gave for the people of God. All of this is rooted in shame and lack of education. All of this. And you have like the long-term effects of it. Like in so many ways, like you have women who then struggle. I saw one of the comments, somebody was talking about how, like, you know, one time like a little boy gave them like a gift or something. I'm gonna try to see if I could pin that exact comment right here. But somebody gave them like a gift, and their parents literally beat them up because somebody gave them a gift. A little boy gave them a gift. They were fast. How dare they receive a gift from a little boy that makes them fast? So much so that this person spoke about how, like, even now as an adult, they're struggling to receive gifts. That's a traumatic response. You were demonized. You were shamed for literally receiving a gift. And so now you are struggling to just have people give you things. That is weird. We shame young girls for just like girlhood, for having crushes, for just like wanting to understand all the things that happens mentally, psychologically, physically, physiologically. Is it physiologically? Physiologically. It's something to do with the physics. You know what I'm talking about. But it's just shame. And then you have the component, another big comment that I saw that was like, oh, prioritize your education. As young girls, prioritize your education, prioritize your education. You're done with the education today. Come tomorrow, your mother's looking at you like, where are the grandkids? Ma'am. Excuse me? It wasn't in my bio books. Okay? It was not in my math book, in my algebra books. The babies was not there. The man, he was not there because I was supposed to be in my books, and I look at the boys because then I'll be like, I'm fast. Okay, so I looked at the books. Ain't no men be in the books. They be out there. Prioritize education. And then you finish education, people are now dragging you to produce a man. Where I'm going to find him? He wasn't on Blackboard. Okay? He was not on Blackboard. Because that's what I was supposed to be at, on Blackboard and in my books. He wasn't there. He was not. All of this is rooted in shame. But even when like I was nannying, right? The kids I was nannying for, I'm still in contact with them till today. I love the family. We still get along. You know, we get together and do the things. They were my flower girls at my wedding. So I love my babies. But like their mom, she talks to them about their bodies. She talks to them about their period. I've already shared my story about even how I found out about my period. Like I thought something was wrong with me. Mandra was 11. I had no idea what periods were. Nobody told me. And the day I finally, you know, had the courage to say like, oh dang, like I was bleeding, because I thought like, oh my Lord, the devil done took over me and all the things. Because again, that's where my mind went. I just want y'all to realize I was bleeding. I was in pain. And the first thought that came to my mind was that the devil done took over me and my mama gonna be mad. That was the first thought. Because I did not come forward until like the third day. Once I kept showering and it was like, and I'm looking at myself down there, ain't no cut. And I'm just like, even if there was to be a cut, how would I have gotten a cut? So the only logical explanation for me in my 11-year-old mind was that the enemy done took over, okay? Done came upon me and done took me over. Now I'm out here bleeding around my mama's house and she gonna be mad. She gonna be angry at me for bleeding. That was my thought process. Like, I want you to sit down and process that at 11. If that was the first thought that I had, you should then be able to imagine the kind of conversations that was being had, the kind of environment that I grew up in. It was shame and fear. Because even then, I didn't go tell my mom. I told my sister. I told her, I'm like crying. I don't know what's happening. Like, y'all gonna have to lay hands on me, call the elders of the church, somebody go ahead and pray for me. And then she just laughed. She was like, girl, You know, you got your period. I'm like, my period, what is that? Let's just go to mom. And I went there. Nobody explained what the period was. They just told me to not look at boys, to not touch boys, or I was gonna go ahead and be pregnant and have a kid. I was 11. Everything I know now about my body, I learned through podcasts. I learned through, whatchamacallit, reading. Like, I learned through figuring it out as I go. That's everything I know about myself. I learned as I went. My mama ain't told me nothing. The school ain't told me nothing. The church certainly did not tell me a damn thing. And that was just like the thought process. It's all rooted in shame. Finish your school, finish your school. Okay. Now I can find you, the hypothesis for the things. I cannot locate a man. Because all my life, I never learned how to talk to a boy. I never learned how to talk to a man. When I was curious, y'all demonized me. Y'all called me fast. Some of us were beat up for having crushes. Literally beat up. Because you're trying to be a prostitute. Like, we were beat up for that. We were just like raised in fear of that. A natural thing. We were raised to be afraid of that. You're fast. You're fast. You're doing the things. Yeah, so now I know 1 + 1 is equal to. I don't know where to find a man. I don't know how to navigate that. I don't. And the sad thing is that was a lot of people's experience in the comments. Like, it just was a lie. Like, I can see by the comments right here, it just was a lie. A lot of stories, like, talk about it. I did not expect for this video to do the numbers that it did. We need to do better. Like, we need to do better for the next generation of girls. We need to do better. Like, a lot of young girls, they're learning about their bodies online. They're learning about their bodies from rap songs. They're learning about their bodies from their friends who together know nothing and a half. It's like the blind leading the blind. Like, everybody is guessing. The girl is a guessing. And the girl that you think maybe looks like she kind of have it together, you befriend her. So you're trying to find out from her. Whole time, she may not even know. Kids are learning from other kids. They're learning from media. They're learning about dating through media. When we should be the ones teaching them that. When the parents should be the ones teaching them that. When the parents should be the ones to have those conversations with them about, like, okay, so you have a crush on this boy. Tell me why. What is it about this boy that you actually like? Oh, that's cute. Okay, what are you gonna do about it? What has he said? There was a comment that was my favorite. This woman said, like, we should teach our girls how to date and teach our boys how to court. Could not emphasize that more. Because again, on one side, we're not teaching the girls. On the other side, we're not teaching the boys either. So everybody coming into this confused. And when those, hormones starts kicking in, they start raging, and, the changes are happening in their bodies, they don't know what else to do. And now they start experimenting way too early, without proper guidance, without proper protection. And so you just end up in a whole mess that could have been avoided if we tackle this head on, like, yeah, it's okay. You're going to feel those desires, but think about it. Is that something you want to do right now? This is what can happen. If you want to go forward and, explore that, these are the consequences. This is what can occur. Just so you know, teaching the young men and young women about consent, about their bodies, their body autonomy. We're not teaching them that. I was not taught that. Let me be clear. I was not taught that. Not at church, not at school, not in my house. I was not taught any of that. When I grew up, I had to figure it all out. But I waited. Many girls, they figure it out amongst themselves with their fellow friends. And it's like, you got Bartimaeus trying to tell Stevie Wonder what to do. What sense does that make? Not a lot. Okay, not a lot. And when we even talk to them about it, We talk to them about it from just like fear pregnancy. Okay. Like, okay. Like, really, that's all that is. Don't have sex because you're gonna get pregnant. My sister always joked, she was like, dang, like, if I'm ever with child right now, she's talking about herself. Like, I don't want to be a teen mom. And I'm like, teen mom, you are 33. That's like pregnancy to her is like, I will be a teen mom. She's 33 talking about she's going to be a teen mom. You are not a teenager. But the fear of pregnancy is so ingrained in us that it's just like wrong. Oh my gosh. Like, these are the conversations that people had with us. Just fear pregnancy, fear pregnancy. And by fearing pregnancy, you're also fearing intimacy. It's not a switch that turns on. Like, stay away from boys, stay away from boys, stay away from boys. Focus on your books, fear the Lord, mind the Lord, have the mind of Christ, focus on God and do the things. And then it's like you're 25. Okay, go have sex, have the babies, get married. It doesn't switch like that. The brain has to rewire itself to then view sex as pleasure, to view intimacy as pleasurable. Many don't. Many do not. The schools have failed us, our churches have failed us, and in so many ways, our parents have failed us. They've just shamed us and instilled fear in us that so many of us don't even know. We don't know how to talk to boys. We don't know how to talk to girls. We don't know nothing. So Tyrone over here sitting thinking like, okay, the more women he can bamboozle and trick into bed, the better of a man he gonna be. And you like a dummy, you've never really interacted with a guy for sure. You don't know that it's a game that they're trying to play with you. So they're gonna text you what you're doing in the night, late in the midnight hour, and you sitting over here trying to digest like, okay, so what does this mean? Should I maybe like sort of kind of like, no. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It's a lie. So let's do better. As a parent, do better. If you're an aunt, do better even with your nieces. If you're an uncle, do better with your whatchamacallit, your nephews. Do better. Again, with proper boundaries. I'm not saying this to be like just like, okay, you got your 5-year-old, tell them all the things about sex and the syphilis. No. Because some of y'all be slow. That ain't what I'm saying. Age appropriate. Things gotta be age appropriate. The family that I used to watch the kids for, their second daughter, one day she just asked me, like, why does your skin look different? Because they're white. And she was like, why does your skin look different? And the mama, you could have sworn that baby called me a house Negro. The mama was like freaking out, thought I was gonna be upset, and like, she didn't know what to do, what to say. Like, it felt like it was like this inappropriate thing to ask. And I just thought, oh, that's interesting. Mind you, what was she? Was she like maybe 3? She was very young. She was very young where like the concept of like, race would not even make sense to her. So I told her like, well, when my mom was, pregnant with me, you know how that works. Like, your mom can have a baby in their belly. When my mom was, pregnant with me, she drank a lot of chocolate milk. When your mom was pregnant with you, she drank a lot of like, regular milk. So that's why when you were born, you look like this and I look like chocolate. She was like, oh, okay. Carried on about her day. Now she's 10. Do you think I'm going to have the conversation of race with her the same way? No. The conversation is a little bit more different. She understands I'm black and she understands that she's white with different nuances, obviously. My point is everything can be made age appropriate. You could make it into like a little joke. You could, like, the dad thought it was funny. He laughed. The mama was freaking out like, oh my gosh, what is like, I'm like, girl, it's all right. At that age, she could understand milk. She can clearly see the difference. And even at that moment, she was curious. She just was curious about what she was seeing. So instead of gaslighting her and making her feel like something is off with her for asking a very obvious question that she's seeing, you look different than us. Why is that? I gave an explanation that was age appropriate, that was silly, that she could comprehend. And then she even asked me, she was like, what if I drink a lot of chocolate milk? Will I have, whatchamacallit, a child that looks like you? I was like, well, then the person that you're married to would have to also drink a lot of chocolate milk. She was like, okay. That's it. So now, as a 10-year-old, she will understand that, okay, for her to end up with a child that can potentially look like me and different from her, she would have to be with a black person. Now she understands it. At 3, we still had the same conversation differently. Boundaries for sure. But the conversation still has to be had. Instead of gaslighting the child and making her to feel like they're dumb or they're stupid or they're trying to rush some things, that's like, it's, you shouldn't be asking this question, you should be asking. No. Just answer the damn question. One time, the same kid asked me how babies are made, the way I was stuttering. My God. I love her. She's very curious. I don't even remember what I said, but I remember I was like studying, like, okay. So, sometimes mom and dad love each other. And when they love each other, they just like, they hug. And, because they love each other so much, they end up having you. And of course, she had more questions. I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and find your mother. And then fast forward, I think the mom had conversations with them again. They grew up a little bit more at 10. One day I was babysitting them. I went to visit. She came up to me. She was like, Benny, I know how babies are made. And I'm like, you know how babies are made? Do tell me how a baby's made. She was like, so a boy has a penis, okay? Which is another thing. Call the body parts the body parts. Let them know they have a vagina. Let them know they have a penis. Those are not slurs. Like, let them know and name their actual body parts. Just like a boy has a penis and a girl has a vagina. So sometimes when the boy puts a penis inside of the vagina, that's how the babies are made. And I was just kind of like, I mean, yeah, who told you that? Well, mom, and then at school. And I was just kind of like, okay. Now I learned something new. I went and told the parents when the parents came home, like, okay, this is the conversation that we had. And she was like, yeah, we've had this conversation, every now and then, just kind of like how, babies are made. Of course, at this point, she doesn't understand, the actual concept of like the egg meeting the sperm and, the ovulation. Like, at this point, she doesn't understand that, but she understands that a penis and a vagina gotta come together. That ain't the conversation we had when she was 3, though. I told her mom and dad love each other, and because of the love, that's how you came about. Conversations still need to be had. They can be age appropriate. But many of us, especially in the Black community, we run away from this conversation. And when we don't run away from it, we shame. And when we don't shame, we instill fear. And so you got a bunch of women walking around, don't know their left from their right, tootsie rolling, gyrating, and making poor decisions that could have been avoided if we took the time to teach them and explore these things at a young age. Many adults, they're in their 40s, but they're dating as if they're 13. Like, how can this man tell you this and you don't think this is stupid? But you don't know, though. You don't know, because nobody ever took the time to teach you. That's all I'm saying. Alrighty, y'all, that's it on me on this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all hear my heart. And I want to hear, your thoughts and like, your perspective. If you're a parent, an auntie, a teacher, a caregiver, like a doctor or something, like, what are some of the ways that you guys have maybe, try to teach young girls in particular, just like about their bodies, about, navigating the dating scene and like, exploring that girlhood. Like, how have y'all like navigated that in a way that is healthy, in a way that like, still encourages boundaries, right? And I also do want to say this. Are you going to make mistakes along this journey? For sure. Is your child going to come to you with something that you feel like, oh my gosh, we shouldn't be talking about this, and you panic? Yeah, that can happen. But when you recognize that, go back and rectify, right? Like, show yourself grace, because if you grew up like I did, there's so many things you didn't even know to know, right? So it's like, you're gonna make mistakes as a parent, but the default shouldn't be to just shame, insult, and instill fear. It shouldn't be that. Our daughters, our nieces, our little cousins, like, they deserve better. They really do. So comment down below and let me know, what are some of the things that you guys have been trying? What are some of the things that you guys have implemented to end this cycle of shame and, fear and just like gaslighting that exists within the Black community? And by Black community, I'm including all of us right here. Whether you're Caribbean, you're Afro-Latina, you Black American, you African, wherever you're from that you're Black and you've experienced this, like, we need to end this cycle, and we need to do it yesterday at 11 p.m. Okay, that's it. That's all. Go ahead and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so that you always know when I upload. I appreciate you guys taking the time watching my video all the way till the end. So thank you very much, and I'm going to go ahead and see you guys in the next one. Bye, Z's.